Unmasking the African truth, the African way, and retracing the steps of gallant African indigenous spiritual heroes and heroines, we speak without favor and we leave no stone unturned. AHV, 100% indigenous African content.
Welcome to another explosive and interactive episode of African Hidden Voices, where we explore all things African and all things indigenous. Today I'm hosting two very important guests, and we're dealing with all things polygamy. I have on my far right Inkosi Somoya, Imboni Dr. Uzwi-Lezwe Radebe, and in my close right, I've got uGogo, Wesithembu, and we're dealing with all matters polygamy. My name is Dr. Sibanda, and I'm going to be the host of today's podcast. Welcome.
Thank you
so much.
Thank you.
As we go along on the issue of dealing with what is polygamy, I've got a book here that was written by uGogo Wesithembu, and it says, Hello Polygamy. Would you mind taking us through, just give us a short synopsis of what the book entails for our knowers out there?
Okay, so Hello Polygamy is actually a leadership book. It's what every man should do first before he tells his wife. So a preparation book. It is designed to help men who want to practice polygamy to do so being emotionally responsible, culturally integrous, and make sure that leadership comes right at the top instead of just focusing on polygamy from an entitled point of view.
Okay, thank you very much. So today I want us to contextualize the discussion about polygamy. We've seen there's a telenovela that has come out, and it's selling like hotcakes, if I may put it like that. The Polygamist.
Yes.
I think that's the elephant in the room. For the benefit of our knowers out there, what is polygamy? Maybe I'll start with you, Gogo Wesithembu.
Okay, so polygamy can be defined in different ways, right? Maybe from a African indigenous point of view, that's where we should focus on. I would say first, it's a way of living for our ancestors, a way in which we preserve culture, tradition, and lineage.
Okay.
So it's a marriage type that is designed to keep us authentic as African people. That is not to say that only African people practice polygamy, but I'm speaking about it from an African indigenous point of view.
Okay. Baba, your take on what polygamy is?
No, I think she explained it very well. We left European science there as well, because it's known that females are more than males on Earth. So in terms of science, it makes sense that not every woman on Earth will find a man who has no commitment. So all those who are being promised that they must pray, they will find their own man. Not going to work. Instead, what happens is the Jonas situation. Is it Jonas?
Jonas,
Yeah,
yes.
Jonas. The Jonas situation where a man begins to have external marital affairs. And you know what, now in our society today, women have even begun to accept it. As long as I don't know, I have no problem. Because scientifically, the stats tell us. So polygamy is an ancient practice, because our ancients had wisdom. They knew that the numbers do not make sense. So a man had to take more than one woman. Then there are many other, as uGogo have said, and many others, preserving a lineage, and I don't want to repeat. So it has many dimensions and layers to it. Yeah.
Okay. All right. And then as we are sitting here, we know that a lot of people have watched The Polygamist. My question will be to the both of you. What is the right way of going about polygamy? I'll start with you, Baba, in terms of polygamy. How do you practice polygamy in the African context, African indigenous context?
I think we also have to address some little elephants in the room. Why a man who practices polygamy is called a polygamist. A man who practices monogamy is not called a monogamist. The labelings,
Yes, yes, yes,
the
yes.
labelings shows us a deep-rooted problem, which is, I call it, the African identity crisis. Accept anything that's off Eurocentric, reject anything that is off Afrocentric. That's how we kill Africans. We are killing ourselves. Polygamy, it's marriage. Same as monogamy. You know, when people talk to me about challenges of polygamy, and they like to isolate them to polygamy, I say that's where we make the first first mistake. We must not isolate polygamous challenges from marital challenges,
Correct.
because the same. In monogamy, you have marital problems. In polygamy, you have marital problems. If we start viewing the two as the same thing, just the difference is numbers. In polygamy, there is more, a bigger family. In monogamy, there's a smaller family. But let's not isolate polygamy, polygamous challenges, as an isolated case because it's polygamy, as if in monogamy there are no challenges. That's the wrong part. How do we go about choosing people for a polygamy? I'm going to go deeper into more spiritual aspect of things because it has layers. We always say that the first wife, she's the wife of abantu abadala bonke bekhaya, ogogo, omkhulu nogogo. The moment you get the second wife, sithi umfazi omkhulu, it is omkhulu who chooses her, because now it's about growth, it's about expansion. And between omkhulu nogogo ekhaya, the ones who are more vested in expansion ngomkhulu, because they are the DNA carriers. So lineage grows through DNA. Sithi ke manje ngumakoti womkhulu, and normally they will be the ones who normally choose that one, the second wife, to come. In the physical aspect of things, when we are choosing a polygamy, correct, is that the first wife, I equate her as the queen of the family. If we want to speak in the kingdom language, she's the queen. Hence, polygamy can really never be properly successful without the blessing, without the participation of the queen of the family. I call her the manager. Through her, the polygamy will work. And that's not only polygamy. The whole family cannot function without the manager, the queen of the family, which means we call her the first wife. The moment a man chooses a second, third, fourth wife, behind the back of the first, already there's a problem.
Yeah.
I'm telling you. And normally, when that problem occurs, it's always just a damage control now. It started wrong. Now we are on a damage control. And sometimes damage control can work, sometimes it cannot work. So you cannot choose a second wife without the blessing, the acknowledgement of the first wife, because it's a partnership thing. You must do it together.
Absolutely.
And she actually will be the one who will help you, because as men, sometimes there are certain things you look at in a woman. She will assist you to look deeper in choosing that second woman. And when you want to choose and put her behind, that's where you are going to also encounter problems in your polygamous marriage with the woman that you've brought into the family. So, bottom line, the first wife is very important. She must be told, she must know, she must be part of the process of bringing in the one who's coming in. And so on, if you want to move on. It's not done behind the back. That's not polygamy.
Okay. Gogo, your take?
My take, how do we approach polygamy, or how should polygamy be approached? So in the book, I spoke about how polygamy doesn't begin with the arrival of the second wife. but it rather begins with the man himself first. Excuse me. So think about it this way. As a man, you need to know what and who you stand for. So, as a man, you should already find out who your true identity is, your lineage history, before you can speak about polygamy, and also know and clarify the reason and vision why you need to take a second wife. Because there are many reasons out there why a man would want polygamy, whether it's a spiritual calling, it's the expansion of the lineage. Kona abanye who are only born as the only boy child, or the other ones have passed away, or maybe it is a spiritual baton passed on you. So there are different reasons why that polygamy needs to happen. But do you know it as a man? Because if lust is the only reason why you're approaching polygamy, then it's the damage control you're speaking about. Because first you become lustful, then you want to take your side chick and upgrade that woman to be a second wife. How do you expect someone that you were having shenanigans with behind the first wife to even respect the first wife? You already taught this woman that we can disrespect the first wife. So as a man, you have to sit and say, why am I doing it? What is the vision for it? Then you sit down and say, what is my strategy of approach? If I'm representing my ancestors, does it make sense for me to hurt the woman that abantu abadala bangilethele yena, the first wife, by bringing in a second wife without her knowledge? And if this is indeed something that is led by your ancestors, shouldn't you then manifest, phahla, do what you need to do to understand why you and what is the purpose? Because otherwise, like you said, Bab, unfortunately, what is going to happen there is most people are going to get into polygamy with that deception, and the first wife will never forgive how she was disrespected and deceived into this polygamy. So as a man, all you're doing all your life is apologizing. And we know as humans, you're not going to forget. Maybe I've forgiven you, but I'm not going to forget how that polygamy was actually introduced.
So in fact, what you are saying is it building or destroying? That's what you are saying.
Yes, absolutely.
Now, if you already, I like the word upgrade, side chick, because it's important to speak in that manner, to bring in the proper characteristics, because we have to call things what they are, so that people clearly understand. Upgrading the side chick, I like that. So when you had an affair behind your first wife, that's betrayal. Is that building or destroying? That's destroying. Polygamy is about building, as you said.
Yes,
You start by destroying.
Yeah.
Polygamy is not about destroying, it's about building. So that's not polygamy.
Yeah.
If you have gone that route, then there has to be damage control and certain things that should be done to fix it. Because in life and in spiritual practices, even if there's a problem, there are ways to fix problems. We don't just leave problems.
So, in the context of the telenovela, The Polygamist, so we Jonas,
Yes.
is he a polygamist, or the title itself? From what I gather from the definitions that you've given me, is Jonas a polygamist? I know Baba says they already there's a negative connotation in terms of the labeling that says polygamist.
Yep.
It comes with its own negativity.
Yep.
So is Jonas a polygamist in loose terms, or is doing something else?
Absolutely not. So here's the thing. The polygamist is an assumption that a man who is married to multiple women gets that title. You can be married to multiple women and you're still not practicing polygamy. You're not the right polygamist, so to say. You're not the right leader to be in that home. We can't call you a polygamist. And what we see with Jonas there is a promiscuous man, a man who has a character issue. We see a man who is lustful. And he doesn't start in marriage. He's always been like that, even when he was a boy. Okay, so that is just a man who is boasting his ego through sleeping with multiple women. Yes.
No, I like your definition. It's as I'm saying, it's very important because on another earlier podcast, I was talking about characteristics that are important. So what you are saying is the term polygamy characterizes something. So whenever something does not fit the characteristics of polygamy, it's not polygamy. That's what you are saying. You are saying
Correct.
there could be men with 1 or 2, 3, 4 women, but we can't give him the title of being a polygamist or practicing polygamy because of the characteristics of his actions. That what he's doing, that's not polygamy. So it is wrong for society to always give the term to something that does not fit the characteristics. So Jonas, right? He's not a polygamist. And remember, the entire movie is based on the man. It says the polygamist. It's misleading because Jonas is not a polygamist.
Yep.
He is a man who is suffering, actually, whose soul suffers from sexual greed. Umphefumulo wakhe unenkinga. And by the way, a man who's like Jonas, no matter how many women he can marry, he's going to do the same thing. And that's why sometimes people think men who become polygamists, amadoda athatha isithembu, asithatha because they can't be sexually fulfilled by one woman. And that's not true. Polygamy is not only about sexual intercourse. We said before, it has many other layers and reasons. So we must not limit polygamy to sexuality. The same as monogamy. Why do you marry? There are people who don't want to marry.
Yep.
The moment you take a wife, why uthatha umfazi? It's because ufuna ukulala. We don't marry only for sleeping. That's just one part of it. So this man is not a polygamist because as far as I'm understanding, they briefed me about this film, this movie, and they said to me, he has that first wife. He has a second one that he was hiding. He goes and gets umakhwapheni, the third one. The first one then says, marry her. So it was not even Jonas's decision to marry.
No, it was not. Absolutely not.
It was not. It was the first wife. And by the way, she was trying to apply polygamy as a solution. But it failed, by the way. So polygamy in the entire movie is something that appears little. It's really, in terms of polygamy having an effect in the entire movie, it's because that's the only time we see polygamy is when she initiates it to solve a problem of this troublesome man on the third woman.
Yes.
Right? So in other words, already you can see with polygamy, that's the only time polygamy appears.
Was
And it's not
mentioned.
him.
No.
How you call him a polygamist when he did not even initiate it?
Exactly.
So
yes.
a man who has 2, 3, 4, 10, 21 billion women is not a polygamist. Polygamist also, by the way, polygamy is marriage. The same as monogamy. Kukushada umuntu uthelwa inyongo wenze yonke into. When you have a wife and 3 side chicks, we don't say we polygamy. Because polygamy is these women being known by the living and bangasekho. Bathelwa inyongo abafazi bakho. Nothing is done behind the back. So definitely uJonas akakho polygamous.
Yeah, and I think to add on to that is to say, let's not forget marriage. We say marriage is an institution. And if we talk about marriage, we all know that marriage, in any institution that's out there has got some law and order, right? In terms of this is what you need to do to be fully within this institution. So is polygyny, right? What we call polygamy, right? Because nalapho sithi our tradition, how does it dictate a woman being a wife? Right? There's certain rules that must be followed first before this person can become a wife. Maybe what we also need to speak about is the fact that sometimes isintu sethu gets lost in translation in the English language, perhaps because their polygamist means ukuthi indoda enabafazi ababili, but or abathathu, whatever the number is. But from an African indigenous point of view, we understand that it is a man who is capable of carrying responsibility. So How do we translate that to English? We can't, right? But then actions of that man, in the way in which he carries himself, the way he treats his tradition, his culture, and on the wives that are around him will show the type of man he is, his character. How his first wife would want to say, I understand what Umieniwam is trying to do, is because that man sat down and mentored umfazi wakhe wokuqala, showed her that this is the vision yala ekhaya. That's why in the book I say polygamy does not begin with the other woman entering the marriage, but rather with the man, the character. That leader is the one who then says, Ngami, amathongo afikile, or la ekhaya, kumele senze kanje. And therefore, you need to understand that in the couple of years, this is what's going to happen. The man must always be responsible for facilitating the collaboration within a polygamous relationship. So a man who's like Ujonasi has never really been about collaboration. We see in the way he started, he was just a schoolboy who was busy with different school girls, and Uesi, who is now the hidden second wife, was actually enabling that behavior. That's how that character thrived in Jonasi. He understood that women will still promote ill behavior if there is something in it for them. Okay? And a man like that who's not held accountable, does not have a vision, will continue to serve himself. That is a man who then has different women and all he does is boost his ego. That's the difference between African indigenous polygamy. Our polygamy has never been about collecting women. It has always had a vision. Why are we doing it? Whether people understand it or not, but why are we doing it? And who must understand the why? You as the man.
Okay. From what I gather from the definitions, from what has been articulated by the both of you, the first wife is key in all this here. So we see in the telenova Jonas's first wife saying, wanting to get the second wife to be part of the marriage setup or the marriage institution. So that in itself, according to the definitions you've given so far, is not polygamy, because it's initiated by the first wife, seeing that already the man has got issues. So I just want to get a sense from an African indigenous spirituality perspective, in terms of familiar energies. How do we then get to make sure that the energies, especially the feminine energies, are aligned within a polygamous setup? We see in this case here, Jonas's first wife says, no, because there are benefits that I'm going to lose if I don't make sure that the second wife comes into the institution and be part of the family. I'm going to lose the children are going to suffer in all this, and then I'm going to lose the benefits that come off with the divorce in terms of if I'm going to divorce my husband. The familiar energy is there. The feminine familiar energy is not there. It's just somebody else who says, let me try and formalize this. But the practice itself, in terms of the right way of doing polygamy, is not seen in all this here. From an energy perspective, your guidance in terms of how this is supposed to.
Yeah, energy is very important, especially in a family. So strange energies will tend to break a family because strange energies are not known within the household. Everything it has energies. So in polygamy, the first wife enters the family and they build. She is a familiar energy. The second wife, if comes in and becomes a familiar energy. But when she is not brought in, umakwapen, she's a strange energy. And by the way, that's why a man who sleeps around does not only bring problems to himself, he brings to his family, because he brings strange energies into the house. And if we are going to speak about sexual activities, where he then goes out with these strange energies, comes back to his wife, have sexual intercourse with his wife, He's also not only diseases, he's also carrying energies
Energy, yes.
that he begins to live with his wife. And that's why sometimes we'll see that men who are not able to be loyal and faithful in their marriage, at times we'll find that their wives were certain kind of people. They had certain kind of characteristics and behaviors. When times go by, they change. And the blame is always on the woman, forgetting that the energies, strange energies he brought to her, are probably the ones that are manipulating her to change and become this kind of a person that she's no longer is. It's because of all these strange energies that he picks up from these women and he brings. That's why we can never compare polygamy together with a man who have sexual greed. It's not the same, because in polygamy, they are brought in and they become familiar energies. When there are familiar energies in the home, there is stability, there is harmony. The moment a strange energy enters a home, it disrupts that harmony. And that family now is now broken. And that's why polygamy is important, because we become one. And there is, our energies are all familiar energies within the home.
Okay. And then from the explanation that Ubaba is giving, familiar and strange energies, we see in the telenovela later on, then it starts with the funeral, where we see that there is an issue where the first wife then killed Jonas.
Yep.
So that's what Ubaba is talking about when about the strange energies that are being brought in, because it was in practice in the right context and in the right way. Your sense in terms of familiar and strange energies?
I echo that. Echoed 100%. In the first book that I wrote, which was a memoir, Isithembu, Sailing Through Polygamy, I spoke about how we are recycled. We are recycled spirit. We are recycled beings, right? A spirit first, most of all. So you just look at us and you're like, oh, okay, Hotatso. I'm not Hotatso. I am Gogo Manyaka. I am my great grandmother. But from a physical point, you just see a Hotatso. But we are recycled spirits. And that's going to show in the way we carry ourselves. But also, more so importantly, is the fact that we, as African people, one way or the other, we know subconsciously that polygyny, Isithembu, is our way of living as African people. And that's why you see in the telenovela, Joyce then said, okay, why ungathathi ke Isithembu? Because now the matriarch is seeing, you know what? Maybe I can forgive, but can we do this in a respectful manner? This is the matriarch then saying, I'm being failed with the way in which your leadership is applied. But as a woman, as umfazi olethwe la ekhaya kwaGomora, let me bring in respect. Now let's look at this. This woman is taking a responsibility that was supposed to be run by the men to begin with. What are we learning from that? We are learning the fact that tradition can never ever correct ill behavior. Never. So it needed to be run by the man himself. Okay. Energy there made her make that decision ukuthi asithathe Isithembu ke as a fallback. Why? Because there's somewhere where she called in Umatipa, the incoming second wife, well, third wife, and said, why are you busy with my man? And this woman said, you know what, I love him. I didn't plan for this to happen. At the end of the day, I'm not going anywhere and there are children. And this woman sits there and thinks, yazini, okusalayo, the seed Gomorrah is out there, right? Again, this is a recycling of generations. These children are going to be out there and known as amavezandlebe or whatever names we are going to use, illegitimate children. But that's going to become an identity of an African child based on how they were conceived because of two people, right? Yes, it's him, Jonasi first, but when as the wife, unfortunately, that man represents you as well. His ill behavior represents you. So that's what we learn there. Which, okay, at the end of the day, we are recycled beings. And if we don't carry ourselves in a way that is proper, our children will unfortunately inherit that.
Okay. So should the telenovela then be titled The Polygamist?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But we know now, I've seen different interviews, even from the writer together with the director. If we ask, should it be named the Polygamist, why couldn't have been named something else? The defense will be that book was published in 2012. I saw an interview with the writer saying, well, back then I didn't have a term for it. Maybe I could have called it the narcissist, she said, or I could have called it the promiscuous man. But what I said and observed or analyzed is the fact that that is an African child who grew up saying that is polygamy. So maybe the question should be for us, people who are pro polygamy or trying to reform and repair the narrative around polygamy, is what are we teaching our children as Isithembu? What are our children learning? Because right now, this telenovela is watched by even our children and they think, oh, that's what polygamy looks like.
And I don't know your take, Baba, in terms of the modernization, if I can put it in inverted commas, of Isithembu. What are the benefits of polygamy, if we can put it like that? Because the narrative out there is polygamy is negative. Because in the media, on TV, everywhere else, monogamy is pushed more than polygamy. If somebody is sitting out there, is viewers or knowers, why would one get into a polygamous relationship?
Yeah, I think first of all, let's understand why everything African was demonized. We have to begin there. Hence, I'm saying Africa is suffering from identity crisis. So, why do many Africans look at polygamy negatively?
Because of
Many don't know, because it's actually missionaries who came here and began to demonize polygamy. And if we look at missionaries, their agenda was way beyond what many people think, just to take us out of our roots. They had other agendas, which is Africa, as we speak now, is the future. That's a global perspective now. That's why you see that there's a lot of interest. African leaders are being wined and dined all over the world because Africa is the future. Many countries in Europe are dying. Populations are dying. The only growing population is Africa. The only youthful population is Africa. So at that time when they came, part of the agenda was to depopularize us. And one of the ways was to turn us away from polygamy and push us only into monogamy. But it's unfortunate because many Africans don't research properly. And when you say missionary, for them is, oh, qalile. And they don't understand that those agendas were beyond religion, were way beyond religion. So we did not stop polygamy because a God spoke. No. We stopped because of missionaries who demonized it. It's proven, it's researched. Before they arrived, we were free in Africa. Now, there are many benefits to polygamy. Maybe ngizoshare ugogo naye too. Ashare kancane. But there are many ways. But I like to speak basic and overall. Basic and overall is, I said before, science tells us women are more than men. That should already tell you. She spoke of children growing out of wedlock. The difference between ancient Africa, where there was no orphan, and modern Africa, we spoke of modernization. Where does it lie? When we say in ancient Africa, there were no orphans. How do we think there were no orphans? It takes a village to raise a child. Today are used very loosely. But we don't interrogate the meaning of those terms and what gave meaning to those terms. We don't interrogate, we just want to use those terms loosely and sound very African.
That's because nowadays it takes a village to break a child.
It takes a village to break a child. So it takes a village to raise a child. No, there was no orphans in Africa. Why? How could there were no orphans, and today we are sitting with many single parents? It's because of polygamy. Because once a man built a family, got the first wife, got the second wife. There was no children that was born out of wedlock. All children had a family. Today we are sitting with single parents. Hence, we have children today who have no parents.
Some are hidden for many years, like we've seen even on the Polygamist with the child Sarah, right?
So even the story even depicts that.
Yeah.
It depicts it because of we began to demonize an African solution that at one time it gave all of us a meaning in life. So I'm a leader of millions of people, and I face that every day. People who are old, not children, who have grown up not knowing their fathers.
Yeah.
And you see a man, an old man, crying tears when he speaks of how he does not know his father. And we ask ourselves, how did we reach here? No, it's demons. We're going to be blaming every super artificial things. We have moved from our ways of living. Polygamy provides family for all. A man, polygamy in the ancient world was also a responsibility to say there are more women than men. Take responsibility. You got one, but what about the other one? Will she find a family? Will she find a man? So it was more of a responsibility that men had to take. It was not about, as we spoke, about sexual pleasures. It was a societal responsibility, because our ancients were not living in illusions. They were living in reality. They knew the science. There are more women than men. Now, if you took Isithembu in the ancient days, that's why you were respected. Not only you are rich. Today they tell no, it's a lie. By the way, it's a lie. Not only rich people. A man who took Isithembu was a man who was regarded as a man who was not fearful, and a man who took responsibility. And those who were kind of only one. That's why a man who is Isithembu, because it was la, you are doing society a favor. Maybe that lady would never had. Lastly, on that, would not today's society, when they take his team, also become heroes? Because there are many single mothers today. Imagine if men can take these single women. Because shame, they are waiting for their own. But I don't know if they're going to find. Unless they'll find Jonas. Unless they're going to find Jonas.
Yeah.
And Jonas is a problem
Yeah.
to single women, because Jonas will arrive as a father figure.
Yeah.
Umalume. Whom tomorrow, when Umtuana gets used to Jonas is no longer here.
Yeah.
So all the single ladies, I don't know.
Yeah.
You are busy praying and say, oh, is somewhere there.
No, they're just waiting for a Jonasi to jump from one marriage to another. That's what's acceptable right now. To say, I'm waiting for my man, but as soon as he gets divorced, then he's mine. That is the hallucination that we are recycling.
Which is a very important point you are bringing. So in other words, that's witchcraft, because you are waiting for something to break
Yes.
and then you take over. That's
Yes.
not polygamy. That's Western polygamy. But that's acceptable today.
Yes, that's the only thing that
And
makes sense.
polygamy is demonic.
Yes, yes. And lest we forget, polygamy was never only practiced by African people. Even the Europeans practiced polygamy. I think they were called Mormons or something like that. I don't want to get...
No,
is it-
Mormons it's a religion.
So I'm getting there. It was still practiced under that, right? And then
Before
we've got,
that.
before that,
Before the
okay.
religion began.
Correct. And now we also have Muslims who are still practicing it today. And from an Islamic point of view, it is actually to dignify women. Okay, so that there's no widow who is without a man. There's no children who are without fathers. But for some reason, we always sit here and discuss it. Is it wrong? Is it right from an African point of view? Which is the sad part. Because that religion is still very much relevant today. We don't have Muslim people sitting down and saying, is it wrong, is it right? It continues to happen. It continues to become relevant, and it is still doing the very same dignity. So when it comes to Africans, we need to wake up and realize that more than anyone, or any race, any community, polygamy is relevant for us African people, because we are the guinea pigs when it comes to identity crisis. From African people, more than anyone, need polygamy because we have a lot of our African sisters who are currently single parents from this monogamy yabo. Okay, because now the only thing that makes sense is if love is finished, we go to the next relationship. African indigenous marriages were never really created on the basis of love alone. It has always been about expanding and maintaining lineage. If we look at it from a traditional point of view, in different cultures, I don't know in Xhosa, but Bapedi, for example, when this man dies, that child, that wife actually must be married by the brother. I think it's there in Zulu as well. In a Zulu point of view.
Ngilhlubi. I'm a Hlubi, but in most African traditions, bayibiza isiko lokungena.
Yes, and I know now it's going to say, oh, nobody, I've got a right, whatever, but bear with me. The point I'm trying to make is back then they made sure that there is no woman who is not going to be called names and say, that's a widow or that's a single parent. There's no such a thing. This then created dignity. It was there even in the Europeans' point of view, right? Where polygamy was practiced, a lot of women being able to work the land, a lot of women being able to coordinate with each other and make sure that the family runs properly, the businesses run properly. What we don't see as African people is how white people progressed in the tradition of polygamy. They took it away from just family building and they took it to corporates, where now we call it nepotism. Bayafagana. It's still there. It's a polygamy from a corporate point of view, from a professional point of view. So what is the benefit then for us African people if we ask in terms of polygamy? 3 things for me: economics, identity, and community. There is no race like African people who are disadvantaged. To even say previously disadvantaged is not even fair. Currently disadvantaged when it comes to economics. So what more if a man who has a business or who's got the potential is actually supported by 3, 4 women who are not there to benefit, not beneficiaries. Women who are there to work the home, work the land, and work the economics. Because right now, when the Europeans went and upgraded their tradition of polygamy by making sure that they are still economically stronger, what they then did is they said, Laba will give them the bare minimum, being triple BEE, right? But that triple BEE can still actually work for us when a woman is actually strong and supported by these policies. That can be used to build African homes. Then we have our identities where we understand which children can belong. Women can have dignity. Then community. I think this is where we are failing the most. That's why we will not see benefits when it comes to polygamy, because we lack the need to create community. There's never been anything where change is pushed without campaigning, without activism. That's why we are seeing that television telenovela. That is campaign. It's campaigning against polygamy or the African traditional polygamy. That's campaign, whether you want to believe it or not. Because television is not just about entertainment. It's a powerful medium. It's education.
It's an educational
purpose. Exactly, educational purposes. So what we need to come back here is to say, where do we start for us to see these benefits? It starts with community. Niaguphi. Right now, a lot of people are lost even spiritually. People, I'm sorry to say this, but most men don't even go to church. I'm not talking church from a whatever religion you're coming from, but they don't come together. Akuna ministry. And there's never going to be change. As African people, we should be saying, what is our new church? Where do we come together as a community and learn? We can just change what is it we are learning? We are learning about tradition, about our culture, the problems that are on the ground right now. And then how do we become better African people and build better homes?
Yeah, we need guidance.
We need guidance.
There's no guidance, and there was guidance before. And that guidance was from our ancient spiritual practices. We must be guided by authentic spiritual people who get revelations. And I think lastly on that, it's you put it well. So the benefits of polygamy, it gives us solid family structures. Remember that a family is the first school of life. And do you know why today societies are breeding selfish people. By the way, you cannot practice polygamy if you're selfish.
Yeah, no, absolutely agree.
Both male and
Yes,
female.
yes, yes.
Nalento ukuthi abafazi bathi indoda yami. It breed Jonas because Mauti indoda yami, he begins to do things out there. Because we're trying to hold him. And so his selfishness becomes a problem. So children who grow up in a polygamous family, of course, a positive one, they learn to share.
Yes,
They grow in bigger families. They learn to be patient. Because family is the first school of life. When you grow up in a monogamous marriage, sometimes you are one child or two. Become selfish. Toys ezakho. You're not used to sharing. The only place that kind of assists you is when you start going a crash in school, which sometimes it does not, because the nature of schools we have now, especially if you have money, they kind of give the smaller numbers of children in the classrooms, and it's not going to break that selfishness. And you grow up like this, and you grow up being this very selfish person. And by the way, you see, white people used to practice polygamy and spirituality way back. They are the first races to leave these kind of things, begin to come up with modern ways. And if you look at them now, how they are and how we are, ubuntu abukho. Because selfishness nobuntu azihambisani. We are now slowly losing nobuntu because we are also becoming more selfish. But polygamy, it's a big kunomama, umamncane, umntwana must learn. And the umntwana must also learn to love not only her biological mother, but nomamncane okhoyo la ngaphakathi endlini.
Yeah.
All that education is important for that child. When they begin to go out in society, they become better people. They become loving, seeing everybody as her or his mother and sisters. But small families, it creates selfishness in a child, where the world revolves around them. I want this and it must happen. That's why bafuna ukuthi divorce when they're not 30.
Oh, absolutely.
Interesting. And then, lastly, just to wrap up, the psychosocial effects of such telenovelas, especially in society, especially amongst our African societies, what effect does it have, especially when we're talking about, Ubaba says, Africa is the future, and you get media people, journalists portraying the polygamy itself, the institution of polygamy is negative, and you get media people, filmmakers and writers writing negatively about Isithembu. What effect does that have onto the greater society?
Um,
And how do we redress such things?
this is a psychological damage. I'm looking at from a psychological damage point of view, and obviously psychology will then feed into culture, tradition, and identity and community, right? But what we are looking there, if you really follow psychology, what you'll see that telenovela does is it is actually promoting what we call dark triad from a psychological point of view. We see narcissism, we see Machiavellian characters, and that's the problem. Once there's narcissism, Machiavelli, like what is going to happen is people are going to think this is acceptable for people to act like this because it's like dog eat dog, right? I get there, I'm a matipa, I'm there for the bag, okay? And then the other woman must just be divorced, right? So our community is losing their identity because everyone has to fend for themselves. Our children are seeing that as polygamy, that voice is louder than anything. So we need to be very intentional about creating community. That's the attempt that I've been doing when I'm creating events. I've got the Harmonic Ties, which is like a structured polygamy speed dating event that holds men accountable to say, you're not here to collect women. Then I also have the Build Her Confidence also happening on the 29th of August. The Harmonic Ties is happening next month on the 25th of July at Mote Restaurant. The whole point of it was me saying, keep into community. Let's have fun while we are also learning. Let's also learn to change narratives through community and let people see it. You will never change anything while you're hiding. Never. And tradition must evolve, whether it's evolving while sitting at a restaurant or sitting at a church or sitting or television, whatever. What we need to learn is the fact that tradition must evolve because colonialism is evolving while we are sitting and watching.
Your take, Baba?
Yeah, that's very powerful. It's true. So my take is that it does, because remember, what are we fighting now? We're still talking about colonization. But all of that began when we were young. We are now products of the programming that we went through when we were young. Such kind of telenovelas that are misleading in title and further causing damage on our ancient practices. Yes, they've done it wrong, especially in the modern world. We know that. It's not helping the young people because it's putting trauma in their minds. And the moment, remember how the brain works, right? I've done a bit of neuroscience. Once it's encoded in your prefrontal cortex, it then goes to your cerebellum. And once it's in your cerebellum, it's in your unconscious mind. It's there, but you think it's not there. The moment people hear the word polygamy, Jonah's coming to mind.
Yep.
And some women ke bane trauma zabo. Yeah, nami ngakhulela esithembini kabuhlungu. Christmas kathingela izicathulo, the first wife, the second wife. When children hear all these traumas, they associate it with the word polygamy. They will hate it for life. This is intentional.
Yes.
It's intentional. And I think Gogo Wesithembu, she mentioned, and that's how it was. We grew up eating hamburgers. We were watching movies. Sometimes we used to sleep with jeans because that character, American character in that movie, wagqoka jean engagezwa alale nayo. And sometimes we would go at night and sibuzwa abazali manje, because you saw the character in movie, ufaka le jean every day staring and ulala ngayo. Come the jean, awuzolala ngejean. We're angry. We began to stop eating vegetables. What the hamburger, because we were watching movie, we could not even pronounce. And hamburger, we wanted hamburger. And our parents, though they knew, with hamburger, it's fine once in a while, not all the time. We must eat vegetables. But they got so pressured because the media was so powerful that we pressured them so much that they had to give us hamburger more than once. And then we lost our ways of eating, our ways of living. It died, it went wrong, we got sicknesses, and then the list goes on.
Yes.
As she said, media is powerful. And now even we have something called social media at the palm of your hands. That's why children are banned abroad now, 16 years old. Knowing Africa is Olandel, maybe after 10 years, right? Yeah, but unfortunately, we as Africans, we seem just to want to follow what Europeans do. And we don't take responsibility in who we are and first searching for our own true identity.
Yeah, I think to echo that is for us to understand that this was actually quite a trivial time for us to watch such a telenovela, especially because polygamy was actually trying to redeem itself. If you saw before this telenovela, polygamy wasn't becoming a stigma or, something.
Yeah, even on social media now, people
were
are happy
coming.
to.
Yes, the grassroots people were coming next to Msamselugu at the top, we get that. But right now, from the grassroots, people were saying, oh, you know what? There are normal people who are practicing this. This is not so bad. We were picking up momentum. And now this comes here. We are 77,000 steps backward. People will only remember this because this was louder than the reality of many people. So if you're out there at home and polygamy is your reality, whether you're called for it, whether you are practicing polygamy as a solution, maybe it's circumstantial, or it is necessary, whatever the reason is, don't tire. Because what is happening here is African people, once again, are the guinea pig when it comes to continue broken families. And we need to keep the momentum.
Okay. Parting shots, Baba, as we wrap up.
No, I think Gogo's term is correct. Is to encourage people, and but what is very important, elephant in the room. That's what is happening in spirituality. Everybody wants to be a voice, but elephant in the room, hierarchy and order, they don't want it.
Yes.
Even polygamy, let's go to those who seem to be having some kind of knowledge for guidance. Because as long as we think I'm a man and automatically I know how to practice polygamy, it's very strange. Because even in monogamy, people go for counseling and for guidance. Why in polygamy we know? Let's go to people who have knowledge to assist us. Monogamous marriage must be practiced within a community. That could be a family. Polygamy must be practiced within a community. There must be people who have more knowledge than you to assist you. Don't isolate yourself, because that's where you are going to create mistakes.
Yes.
Then everybody says, yeah, and Isithembu naye.
Okay. Thank you very much for coming into our podcast and being our guests in tackling this hot issue about polygamy. What is polygamy? What is the right way of practicing polygamy? What are the benefits of polygamy, and what are the psychosocial effects of polygamy? I hope you were immersed in this conversation right there at home. And please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share on our YouTube channel. And as we catch you next time, please make sure that you also get to watch our next episode is African Hidden Voices. Thank you very much. And thank you to my guests as well. We hope we are going to host you in most coming episodes to tackle such topical issues. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.